true desert red centre style sand dunes. Very stark contrast to what we'd seen.
We had to play in the white sand, the red sand is just completely different.
Any lapses of judgment in here, you're going to end up beached.
Once you broke through that crust, your wheels just dug in. There was no going any further.
Oh!
Got about 3/4 of the way up and I buried myself completely.
Simon called out and said, hey, look, maybe we're going to need some recovery gear up here.
Oh, holy freaking hell.
I think I heard the pedal hit the floor of that car.
So the RB boys got stuck, so it's time for Narva to show them how it's done.
Day 5 on Tolarno Station. Woken up early today and had a bit of a pack up because we're moving camps today. We're heading out to a new area in the property to explore some of the further reaches.
Mike had a few issues with his Can-Am. He rang the mechanic back in Mildura and they were able to slot him in.
I was a little bit annoyed that the buggy had gone into limp mode. Last time I used it, it was fantastic. Really wanted to have some fun up here on the Can-Am. I packed everything up. I said to Simon, I'm going to Mildura. You'll have to do without me today. And he said, good riddance. Go, get out of here.
Hopefully he'll be back with us later on today.
Tolarno being the size that it is, from one campsite to the next campsite, we travelled 15 kilometres and we're still on the same property.
As soon as we'd crossed to the eastern side of Bogged Road, you could see the whole terrain change, the vegetation changed. Much drier to this very fine dry red dust.
A few exciting things to do today. Simon promises that there is going to be some sand dunes later on. So we arrived at our next campsite, Chaffies, which is a little bit further out on the property.
All right, convoy, this is home for the next 1, maybe 2 nights. We'll see how we go. Let's get unhitched, unpack what you don't need, and grab some lunch before we head out to the sand dunes.
Chaffies was a previous owner of Tolarno Station, and so we've renamed some of the paddocks over time after the previous owners.
We arrived at Chaffies campsite, which is not really a campsite as such. It's more of a shearer's quarters and homestead sort of out in the middle of the property.
Chaffies is critically important to us in this day and age. We really want something central. So effectively we've got good accommodation, new wool shed.
We were able to drop a bit of extra gear here, including the X11.
We set up our camp and the boys with the Oztrack got them set up quite nicely, rooftop tents, all sorts of gear.
And then off we went.
While we were setting up camp at Chaffies, you looked over down along the plains and you could see 2 sort of dams. So we decided to head down there, take the yabby net and see if we could grab ourselves a few yabbies.
Aidan, Grant, Anthony, the ARB boys, we headed down to the water to throw a fishing line and see if we can catch some yabbies.
Absolutely fantastic. The boys were very excited to start flicking a lure around, hope for a perch or get straight into a couple of yabbies.
By the time we came back, we were hoping to have a couple of yabbies for dinner.
Rob and his son took us out to find these round sand dunes, heading in a different direction again.
But there's small sand dunes, and then a bit further in, there's a big sand dune. So we're going to play with that today.
We went off to the first dune and it just like it popped out of nowhere. It was just normal farmland, then all of a sudden there was these dunes there.
We arrived right at the base of the sand dune. First thing we did, let some air out of the tyres.
We have to air down.
Yeah. Now for that dune I dropped down to 16 PSI and it actually worked quite well. It did overwork a little bit. Reuben was down at 8 and 10 straight away.
We all watched Simon have a first crack at it. He's like, oh yeah, the Iveco can do anything, so he heads off.
We're straight into it. It was slightly organised chaos because everyone was pretty keen to get in there.
It was a bit of a lip to get up onto. And when I say lip, I'm talking vertical.
So it wasn't something you could hit at speed. You had to sort of carefully nudge your way up and get going.
Now, I know Reuben's busting to get out from DMW. He's got a few little advantages that we don't have. You know, we're heavy, we've got all the accessories to back us up, but he's come out thong slapping with his V6 Ranger with no weight in the back and big aggressive tyres.
Here we go.
Hold on, kids.
I had a bit of a soot around there and was having an absolute ball, but I had a really bad approach angle, and I got a little bit hot at one stage and nearly took out a cameraman, which was quite funny, seeing him jump out of the way.
I did tell him, you know, they're a dime a dozen, so don't worry about them.
And then I was like, you know what, I don't want to be man left out, so I had a crack in the Prado. As I hit that first drive, at a bit of speed, it just went, and that's where it finished.
What happened, coolest man?
I couldn't help myself but try and tackle something that was probably a little bit outside my depth, but you know, new to the vehicle. With all the new electronics, I'm getting myself in a little bit of a sticky situation.
James got stuck.
I was very bogged, I was feeling a little bit vulnerable. The boys were doing everything they could to try and help me out. Simon's at the top, Daniel come running with all the recovery gear and his gloves on to help.
Big heavy truck, big strong winch, no problems at all.
Unfortunately, with the new vehicle, it wasn't as easy as just throttling my way out. I was relying very much on the boys with a lot of UHF communication to move forward and get myself out to a nice, safe recovery.
All in the name of good fun, so we had a ball.
Pretty sure James owes Simon a beer now.
We went exploring for the second sand dune. Simon came across this big undulating one that actually went for miles, like we're in the middle of the Simpson Desert.
Reuben, no donuts, no two-wheel drive, no Reuben revs, but we're still going to have some fun, all right?
Mate, I reckon I'll get to the top of this sand dune and crack out the tea and bickies and just enjoy the view.
You've got all these really tricky little sections, a lot of these big tufts that you see in the desert, really tricky, and you've got to actually weave your way around them.
How's there water up here?
I believe there's a natural spring down the bottom here that runs through the dunes and out the other side.
It was really beautiful views. I'd never seen anything like it. We had to play in the white sand a few days ago, and now in the red sand it's just completely different.
Very stark contrast to what we'd seen in the last couple of days. Back on Angus's farm, almost beach-like. Here we're true desert-like and red centre style.
Oh, this is going to be a bit tricky, guys.
Challenge accepted.
Bit rough, bit rough.
I just found something.
Oh, and the big Ibeco's stuck in soft sand again.
And guys, I'm going for the magic buttons. I'm stuck.
There's a lot of flex there. For once, it's not your biceps.
He's choked it. Oh no, he's got out.
Maybe don't follow me into there, guys. That was pretty serious stuff.
Do follow or not follow?
As Simon went through, he said, oh, no, maybe not, maybe go around. And Jeff just said, no, get stuffed.
All the flex and all 50 horsepower. Great job, Jeff.
We made it. See if your next gen Ranger can do that, James.
Gonna get more fun as the more go through.
Look at the flex on that. That Prado is flexing.
Mate, loves it. I'm told there was getting some good tuck and lift in there. So the Prado must have looked pretty good.
Oh, Nava's doing some sand chucking.
I reckon we're stuck.
Try backing up a little bit and bring your left hand down. All right, now forward again.
Here she goes.
Back out.
It's going.
Hey! Good work, lads.
This is my first time driving on red sand, and these sand dunes are huge.
Is your front wheels in the air doing nothing?
Here we go. Diff locked. Let's have a try of that.
You're cooked, mate.
Yeah, it might be tread time, I think. Maybe.
Let's go and give the ALB boys a hand. Everest is going nowhere quickly.
Jason actually dug himself into a big hole, but anyway, I'll let Jason explain that one.
Unfortunately, I had a little issue with my talent being inadequate for that challenge.
What a fool! She's flat!
That is completely flat. Rocking it, there we go. Aidan and I had to get out and we had to give him a bit of a push and help him. What's going on there? The 79 didn't even lift wheels properly. I'm almost certain that I flattened it for him. I made it easier. Must have made it easier.
Daniel in the ALB 79, myself, just put the rear lockers on just in case, just to make sure we didn't get crossed over.
That was easy for her.
Nope.
Oh no. Spoken to.
Yep. Back we go. I'm gonna need a bit of pace on this one, boys, because I got beached as, bro.
Oh, it eaten it.
No fear, Reuben wasn't going to make it. He was going through no matter what.
Smile, baby, we're on TV.
Are we ready, children? Obviously not.
Wonder where he's leading us now.
Maybe a mystery tracker.
Bit of a drop off here, guys. I'm still in low range. We'll take it nice and easy. It's only almost a metre drop off.
Oh, jeez, that's a big drop off, isn't it?
This is steep.
And as the saying goes, just send it.
We went to the next dune and Simon, he didn't disappoint. This one had one massive epic hill in it.
Completely different. It had a step at the bottom and Simon struggled a few times to get up there.
Simon had to back up a couple of times, but he got that big thing right up the top of that sand dune with not a worry, really.
Yeah, baby, that's how we do it.
That BT50 with Jeff behind the wheel, it's an absolute weapon.
Figured out you can't really steer when the front wheels aren't on the ground. That's how you launch it. Bit of air time.
Reuben from DMW, carrying a very lightweight vehicle, not too much extra on it. He managed to sail up there, no issue whatsoever.
Reuben, he smashed in through, thong slapping as fast as he could to the top and got himself up there.
Just done it. That's pretty cool.
I couldn't help myself. I tried to take his line.
Once you broke through that crust, your wheels just dug in. There was no going any further. Dug a big trench and got bogged.
Unfortunately, got about 3/4 of the way up and I buried myself completely. It seems like a real day that you can throw ARB in.
Simon called out and said, hey, look, maybe we're going to need some recovery gear up here. Jason, can you run up with the recovery gear, drive past James, and we'll get this vehicle out of here? So jumped in the Everest, gave it a good go, but unfortunately I ended up parked only a couple of metres behind James, and now we're both bogged on the hill.
Mate, at least you got the recovery gear halfway here.
They're a little bit embarrassed, to say the least. Both stuck high and dry. The Iveco to the rescue and winch him out.
My two counterparts from the ARB side of things, James and Jason, just made an absolute dog's breakfast of it. Stuck on the side of the hill, absolutely terrible. The only two to get stuck, both got winched up by the Iveco.
So the ARB boys got stuck, so it's time for Nava to show them how it's done.
The hero was driving the car. Secretly, I was thankful I wasn't behind the wheel because James was copping it from everyone and I didn't want that to be me. I told him just to put the boot to the floor, but unfortunately we did get stuck about halfway. We rolled it back, went again, got my run up and went straight up and past the ARB boys.
And that's how it's done. Piece of cake.
Grant for a Piranha forward suit. They made us look like idiots.
Show these electronic boys how to do it, mate. Once we saw the two ALB vehicles getting bogged, we all decided to pick a slightly different line.
Saw how much this had been churned up and I was like, look, Prado can probably do it. No problems at all.
Is it going to be a trifecta? Are all three of the ARB boys going to get stuck? And he sent that thing to the top of the dune like it wasn't even there.
I held up what I needed to do, drove straight up at the end of the day. Fortunately, those other boys have let us down a little bit.
Here we go. This is steep.
What a drop!
Oh!
Really beautiful scenery. It was so vibrant, it was just amazing. We were almost getting ready to leave, but Reuben had said he hadn't had enough of playing around in the sand dunes. He wanted to keep going.
We made a beeline for this really steep dune.
I think I heard the pedal hit the floor of that car. He sent it and made it to the top.
Now, there was one section that was really steep that we all looked at and went, nah, we won't bother.
Holy freaking hell.
Right steep, I was nearly vertical. Yeah, the old Ranger, he just soaked it up, just went down through there nice and easy.
He took the cake for the day. We'll give him this one.
That was good fun. High fives, Mum.
High fives.
High fives, kids.
We made a beeline back to camp. First stop was to go and check the yabby nets. Aidan and the Nava boys, we headed down there, and much to our delight, we had a pot full of yabbies.
Aidan put his hand straight into the net and he picked them up. He was not afraid, but I've never picked up a yabby in my life. He tried to put a net close to me and I was a little afraid because once they bite, they bite.
So Aidan thought it'd be pretty funny to chase Lahira around with the yabby. He was absolutely terrified. I've never seen Lahira run this fast in his life.
Came back up to camp and it was time for cooking with Aidan.
That looks nicely cooked, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
Aidan cooked them up in the pot. They were such a tasty little morsel, I can tell you.
And did a damn good job. They came out absolutely perfect.
Very nice.
Chef Aidan's special dish was the perfect way for the crew to cap off another jam-packed day. Join us next week for the final leg of our journey as we push deeper into Tolarno, get the toys out for a bit of fun, and have a deadly encounter.
I really wanted to fly.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Not bad.
Were you scared?
No.